moments that where it connects people and they're like I really relate to that, and it makes them want to like share it with people, which that's the kind of videos that I have a lot of faith in. And when I make those, I'm like, okay, these are like touching moments, and it always connects to a song too, at least for me. So
Is there a viral moment that kind of like inspires you in terms
mhm,
of like how you related to it and makes you think of maybe perhaps your own song?
yeah.
Is it?
Um, yeah, for sure. At least for me, that's like like I told a story about why I wrote the song or how I wrote a song, and that was its own moment there.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think there's another story that you're kind of holding on to that you're like, when I say this story, I know it's going to connect with people?
I think just I write all my songs about being sad over like some love, so I'm sure there's always someone that relates to that. I'll be like, oh yo, I was in love, and they'll be like, okay, like just that. I think that's just such a timeless story, because there's always gonna be people that are coming up, like growing up, and they're like, oh, I had heartbreak or I fell in love with someone, and it's just that's why like Olivia Rodrigo was so popular at one point, because she wrote those heartbreak songs that everyone could just relate to.
I know. You know, I was thinking about that the other day. Like all the songs that are currently out in Bag are all heartbreak songs. And if you look
Mm,
back like to pop in the 1950s, it was all about falling in love. You wouldn't like heartbreak was the rarity. Now falling in love is the rare big
mm.
pop track. Do you think that it's because of the times or it's just harder to write a love song rather than a heartbreak song?
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, I can't really speak for the 1950s because I wasn't born yet,
I
but
can't either. I can't either. I just like I love music history, and
yeah, for
I'll
sure.
listen to like 1920s vaudeville. I listen to music from around the world, and I like to connect it to kind of cultural
For
spheres. And
sure.
it is something that I've noticed. Whereas you know back in the day, sad songs were so powerful and palpable because everything was happy. You know,
Yeah,
that was the popular. And
yeah,
now it's the opposite. A good happy song hits like a rocket because most songs are about sadness and betrayal.
yeah. I think what I've noticed in the music scene right now is that the happy songs are very prominent in the summer, because that's when people want to just forget about sad things and just live their life, have a good time. And then especially there's a song called Sunroof by Nicky Yor that blew up. And I don't think him as an artist, he didn't get as much traction, but his song specifically, like everyone loves Sunroof. Like everyone knows that song Sunroof.
Yeah.
And the thing about happy songs that I've noticed is that they're good for the season that they're in, and people will listen to it and it'll blow up, like Stay as well by Kid Laroi. But then there's something about even today that the sad heartbreak songs that have a lasting power, because for example, like Louis Capaldi's Someone You Love, that was just such a especially with his voice, because it worked well with his voice, visceral thing to his voice. And those two combinations really made it such a timeless classic that people could listen to it and be like, "Oh, I remember that song. I love that song." And they would like people might still listen to it.
Yeah.
So I think throughout like all of human music or whatever, sad songs I think still reign at the top. Like if it's a sad ballad or some sad song that you can scream, it's it's there. Like that has the potential. But happy songs are like becoming more prominent, especially during seasons where people just want to be happy. They just want to have a good time, and they can also blast it out.
I feel like you're saying seasonal depression is a real thing.
Yes.
Basically, you're saying
Yes.
seasonal depression is real, and our music industry basically follows that. Like when it's winter, it's
Yeah.
sad. When it's spring, we start to get a little bit hopeful. Summer,
Yeah.
we get fun.
100%.
Autumn, we start crashing again.
Yeah. And I think it's just been amplified, especially with the pandemic, where during those 2 years, 2020, 2021, people just wanted like to experience happiness because they were just stuck indoors, things that
Yeah.
imitate or give the emotion of being outdoors, which was like such a huge thing for up and coming artists that were just like, I want to try that. Like, I want to write a song that makes me happy.
Yeah. It was kind of like a fake it till you make it for a
Yeah.
time.
Hmm.
I see that and I agree with it. It makes me wonder when you, as an artist, what do you feel? Do you feel like the human experience is more like we're just happy people who get sad, or just sad people who get happy?
Mm, I would say we are, good question. We are, I think sad people get happy because as people, I've noticed that whatever it is, you'll always remember the tough, trying, or sad times more than the happy moments because your brain physiologically likes to fixate on sad, traumatic things because it makes your brain go, okay, I don't want to experience that. So
Mm.
things like that. So humans are just more focused on avoiding negative, which means you have to know what the negative is to avoid it. Whereas happy things, you're happy and it's good, but then, I may remember, or you'll remember the very cherished, precious things, but you won't remember like little things like, oh, that dog was cute, that made me happy, but I'm not going to be like, that's a core memory in my life.
Mm. I find that that's a really interesting thought because it kind of connects to eh,
Mm,
like I think that you're right, or like there's proof to prove you're right, because most people, I feel like they run their life according to what they don't want, but they never really know
mm-hmm,
what they do. And I think that that
mm-hmm,
happens a lot to artists. Like we know what we don't want to sound like, but
yeah,
what we do is just this like noise in our
yeah,
head that we can't quite
yeah,
make real.
yeah. I'm also not a clinical psychologist, so everything I could be saying is
Yeah,
really
I'm gonna have to put like a
nonsense.
disclaimer. This is not a
Just
clinical
grain of salt, grain of salt. Yeah.
psychological session. No, but I definitely I feel what you're saying, and it makes then me wonder when it comes to your creative process. Do you feel like it's this kind of, yeah, it's cathartic, like you're letting out the sad, but
Mhm,
do you take advantage of it as a way to rework your brain to kind of be like, now that I know
mm,
what I don't want to feel like, I'm going to have to work extra hard to feel this?
mm. Think that the best I like my best songs are just like sad ones for some reason. I don't know. But
Are
uh
you sad, Lyle?
not currently. Well, but uh these songs, especially like the ones that I'm the sad ones, I feel like just hit harder for me. I don't know why. But it's one of those things where because all of the songs I write, not all of them, but a lot of the songs I write are about like heartbreak or something. It's one of those things where you can't rewire your brain to be like, don't like someone because it's like, of course not.
Yeah.
Where that's why it's purely just cathartic because you write a song about like feeling heartbreak and then it's like it helps a little and then time passes and you feel more better. But then it's not one of those things that you can that I feel like you shouldn't just shut out. Some people might be like, I'll never love anybody. And I'm like, okay, that's fine if you don't want to do that. But me personally, I'm like, I feel like the pros definitely outweigh the cons.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that, and I'm sure this has happened to you. This happens to everybody, especially like I've written songs for others because
Mm,
we don't even realize we repeat. And
mm.
I noticed that when like other artists send me their work, they're saying the same thing, just with a different beat or maybe a different, chord.
Oh,
Do you
yes, yes.
find like in your own work that you keep on hammering one point, particularly about heartbreak? And I'm curious to know, what is
Yeah,
the point you think?
yeah. Uh, so that's a good point, and that's something that I definitely thought about because I've heard so many artists that either use very similar melodies, like they have the same cadence to when they write songs, or they'll write about the same thing. And that's why I'm always very conscientious of what I write, especially with, for me, it's more about melodies. Like if it's a melody that I've heard before, that I've done, or that I've heard someone do, I will be so, I will not like try not to use it. Like I won't use a melody that I think I've heard before, even if it's like something where I'm like, I feel like that sounds like a song, then I won't use it. And with topics, that will vary from time to time. But I think like even if you written about a topic before, if it's something that you still think is very like precious or relatable, not that you write to be relatable, but something that you think is still present, I think it's worth writing about, and just like trying to be have a nuance to when you to how you write about it. Like I'll
Mm-hmm.
write songs about heartbreak, but I'll write about heartbreak in terms of a different perspective, like why did it happen, or what was it about, like this stuff that I'm writing about. I wrote it about heartbreak because of, you both know that it can't work because of distance. Whereas before I would just write about heartbreak because she left me or something. Like it's like you can approach it from very different ways. And I'm very conscientious about how I write about things.
What do you feel then, writing all these love songs, what do you feel you've learned about love?
Yeah, that's that's so the biggest thing I think for me about love is that when you're in like high school, you're just like, I would literally do anything for this one person or what, like, doesn't matter. And it may or may not work well depending on the person, I guess. But I think the most important thing now for me when I go through any relationship, it's that it's not necessarily about being the right person for that person. Like, you shouldn't bet all your chips on that one person. It's more, I view it more as, okay, if I like myself and I'm comfortable with myself and everything's good on the me front, someone will just be there. And if I someone catches my eye and it works out, that's great. If it doesn't, unfortunate, but like, you live, and it's less about that. This is
Oh, you froze. You froze.
the end of me if it happens, kind of thing. But realistically, that's not what you should do. But yeah, you're right. Like we can still be friends or whatever.
I get that. Like what you're saying is basically like the end of a relationship is not the end of you. And writing these love songs has helped you realize that.
Yeah,
Has it
yeah.
helped you in some ways kind of, you're writing these songs about people you've broken up with, you've fallen for, have you kind of like realized how you work in relationships? Like, has it helped you take accountability in a way for how you treat people, for how you see people?
Mhm. Um, I wouldn't say it changed much, but it the way that I talk about people in songs has had people message me and they'd be like, and when they talk about the lyrics of their song, and they're like, I don't know, this is me patting myself on the back, I guess, but it's had people tell me, "Oh, I really like how you write about the other person in the song, where you don't bash them or you don't say they're bad, and it's more like
Mm.
you're trying to work things out and see things perspective, which understand them and not just judge them," which I didn't
Hmm.
consciously think about when I write the songs, but hearing it explicitly from someone really just went like, "Oh, I guess you're right. Like that's an interesting thing."
I like that. I like that because what you're kind of saying to toot your own horn, pat your back, is that there is a natural accountability to your music, and I think that
Yeah,
because you have that accountability, you're not only writing songs of love, but you're also writing songs of compassion.
yeah.
I
Which
dig that.
that's one of the things that I really like. Yeah, I really like songs that have that compassion embedded in it, where it might come off at first, it's like, oh, he's just sad.
Yeah. I think that that is oddly like low key, it's more attractive to listeners because
Mhm.
we all love like the revenge track and you're a jerk
Yeah.
track because we all have,
Yeah.
there are people who are jerks and there are
Yeah,
people
for
who
sure.
do deserve revenge. But I think for the most part, a lot of breakups are a little bit more complicated and messier, and they're a little bit more
Mhm.
about like,
Mhm.
we just didn't work out, and I don't want to hate you because to hate you makes me, it's a side of me that I don't
Mm,
like. You know, like I don't know if you've ever felt like
exactly.
this, but I've had moments where I'm
Yeah.
just like, I don't want to be angry because like I also just don't want to feel anger.
100% for sure. That's like all the time.
Yeah. It's like I just don't want to feel that feeling. Not even if the
Hmm.
person deserves it or not, or if I actually feel it towards them. I just want to eradicate that vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because it's like such a negative, like being angry is no one likes being angry
I
for
think
both
some
parties.
people
It's
do.
not like a great,
I think some people do.
oh, okay.
Well, and
Some
that's
people
what I
on the
mean. Like
road.
I do think there are people who like being angry or are just so used to that
Hmm.
state. I do think there are people who are jerks and deserve
Hmm.
a nice track of revenge. But I think for the most part, people there are, like I said, A, more complicated, or B, are more trying to get rid of the feeling than the
Yeah.
person. Because if the person's gone, you can't get rid of them. You just don't want that memory to always have such a dark sentiment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
So, I'm curious then, do you find influence in like love stories of movies or video games or even books?
Mm, right now, that's something that I want to try working on more because as much as your own life is a good inspiration, it it's hard to write songs if you are in a state of neutrality. So I think there's a great artist that does this. His name's Keshi, where I think all of his songs he mentioned are written just about experiences that his friends have had or that he's like heard about. And it's so polarizing because his image is like he's the ultimate sad boy, but he's happily married with a wife, and you're like, what? How long has this been going on?
What do you mean
And
you're okay?
what do you mean you're okay? Exactly. So that kind of thing where I want to try to tap into that more because right now I haven't had as much time to focus to like spend more time on things like movies or video games. I try to read books, but it's hard
Yeah.
as well because I don't know if this was relayed in the bio or whatever, but I just graduated from university, so I was like pretty much school and then music, and it's just like balancing that because I was like a lot of time. It took a lot of time, so it was harder to like fit a lot of extra things in.
Yeah.
But
I,
that's something I want to do more.
Yeah, and it seems like, I mean, it's when you think of like Keshi as a perfect example, it just seems smarter not to
Yeah,
involve your personal feelings or tales. A, because people can easily DM you and be like, "Is that what you feel?" But B, there are moments where, like, I remember my friend, they send me a song that they had just written, and I was like, "You sound genuinely sad. This sucks."
are you okay?
Because like
Are
it
you
was
okay?
like like if you're too in the feeling, it's palpable
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
sound good. It sounds like it's, you know
Um,
what I mean? Like if you're actually sad and writing a
yeah,
sad song, yeah, sometimes it could be the most genius thing, but for the most part, you're like you're crying over a track, control
yeah,
yourself. Or
yeah,
even a
yeah,
happy song, like if you're genuinely happy, again, you could write a great one in that state, but it also can feel like cheesy. And you're like, it's
yeah,
as if when you're too in the feeling, you don't hear yourself.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's true. That's true. I
So
didn't
I
even think
think
about that. But,
I think that the Keshi strategy, we will call it, is
mm,
kind of smart because you're not in the feeling, you're just an
mm,
observer of it.
yeah. And I think it takes a level of awareness to get to there, which is like why it's so interesting in his case, where you think his songs sound like he went through it and he's like dying, but in reality, it was just as a third party, he's written this very, especially the details in it. Like it's a very detailed tracks that he writes, and you're like, wow, he gets it.
Well, I think empathy matters.
Yeah.
I think that if you, especially as artists, you have a real opportunity to be empathetic. I mean, everybody has felt bad. They just may not have felt bad for the same reasons.
Mm.
If you attribute the feeling of bad for with somebody else's story, that empathy could write a song for sure.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I
So that's a skill. That's a skill that I'm like, I need to work more into. So I want to do more
yeah.
songwriting sessions with
I mean, if there a
different
book
creators.
that you're reading or you want to read that you're like, maybe that will be a good song.
Yeah.
That could be in a whole album.
Yeah. 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 If you have any book recommendations, let me know. I'm reading Catch 22 right now.
Well, what type of books do you like?
Mm, there isn't a specific genre that I lean towards, but I think I just want to go through all of the so-called classics. So things like,
Mm.
but like a good genuine like tearjerker is a good one. Like if you know any good ones like that, then I'll be like, okay,
I'm trying to think of like, let me Google real quick. I'm trying to remember
okay.
the title of like a good sad love story
Mm.
because
There
you're
was one,
obviously writing love songs.
yeah. So it would be good to. I mean, I could pull out something from anything, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, just a nice, sad. Well, I mean, yeah,
Tragic,
it's just
tragic
everything
story.
is like YA novels,
Yeah,
where like they're 13 and somebody gets cancer.
yeah. The whole
Like
thing.
yeah, and it's just like, I think sometimes the saddest love stories are the ones where it just was like, ah, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just
Yeah,
yeah.
like it's not like oh, somebody died. It just was like, yeah,
It's
yeah,
the
like
ones where you're like, I really wish that could have happened. I
yeah.
really,
It's the fade out. I think the fade out
yeah,
hurts more
yeah.
because it's like
Mhm.
it slowly happens, but you don't but then it's slowly happening, and usually you don't
Yeah,
realize it until like one day you're like, I haven't heard it from this person in months.
yeah,
Or like it's one of those like, we're just not connecting anymore, huh? That
yeah. And then it's like once you get to that moment where it's like too late, and then you're just like, the moment you're okay with it is the moment when you're like, damn, like that's it, like it's done.
yeah, you're like, well, like I'm okay with losing you. And then
Ooh.
you get all like existential because you're like, there was I
Mhm.
feel like every person that I've ever said I'm okay with losing you, before there was a one point in our relationship where I was like, I can't live without you.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So that's
And
the
that's
the
kind of
real
scary.
trip. And if you can make a song like that, that is fire because that's relatable.
I'm writing it down right now.
I know, me too. I'm like, we might have to write some tracks. Shuts laptop and goes into their layers.
Yeah, exactly.
Proceeds to enter the music
That's
layer.
that's
Yeah.
that's really good actually.
Yeah, because I think those are the songs that become low key hits because not everything, I think what
Mhm.
hurts most is that it's not dramatic. Like you wish it was like an
Yeah,
explosion,
yeah.
but it's just like, all right, bye.
All
Yeah.
right, bye. Yeah. Bye, Felicia.
Well,
Yeah.
we've been like almost 30 minutes and we were supposed to be 15, but this was awesome. We got a lot of content and
Okay.
now we have
Yeah.
inspiration.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you so
Two
much for
birds with
this
one.
interview. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you for having me on this.
Yay. I'll send it to you when live
Does
and
any of this
have a good
video
day.
footage get okay?
Yeah.
Yes, you too.
See you. All right.
Thanks for
Bye.
chatting. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.